All right. So next we'll study Gaussian process regression. Let me quickly recap uh, linear regression first. So what we have in linear regression, we have labeled training points x and y n, capital N number of them, where xn is the input, it comes from a d-dimensional real space, and yn is a single scalar real valued scalar. This point is critical. Remember, what we did in linear regression was we What we did in linear regression was we assumed a set of weights, W1, D number of weights, if D is the dimension of the input. And we assumed that Yn, so you have a set of xn's which we have known, which is observed. Yn is a linear function of xn. It is Wt, the weight vectors into xn, plus some noise, All right, and this noise epsilon n is a normally distributed noise with zero mean, and some sigma n, let me call, or the inverse of sigma n, I call precision. This is the less the noise, the more the precision is the sigma part, the sigma n part of the noise. So you can think of like this, that every yn is a random variable. The random variable is computed for a given value of xn by first biasing it by Wt into xn, which is this blue line, and then adding a small noise to it, which is the random part. So this blue line part is a constant part, then the sigma n part is the only random part. So if we make this, then yn given a new value xn, w and b is a Gaussian, whose mean is along this blue line, Wt into xn for a given value of n. And the variance is just the noise variance. That much is the variance. So this is a Gaussian distribution like this. So this is what we did in Bayesian distribution, Bayesian linear regression. We call Wt as a parameter of the weight of this linear model. What we usually did was we kind of assumed a prior on the weight. We have a belief of how does the weight value should change. And our belief is that weight value is a Gaussian distribution with mean weight value, the average weight value to be mu naught, and some variation sigma naught. And just like in any Bayesian analysis, all right, so this is my prior. So in normal Bayesian analysis, you saw that we have a prior and we have a likelihood distribution. Can anybody tell me what is the likelihood distribution? What is the, I just specify the prior, and how do I get the likelihood? Anybody, any idea? How do you get the likelihood? For a linear regression, what is the, so in any Bayesian inference, you have a prior times likelihood. What is likelihood? How much you can explain the data given parameters. That means P of x given W. How much you can explain x given W. Okay, so that is the likelihood. And prior is just the some belief about W, PW. So what is the prior is clear. We can assume some prior, Gaussian prior we have assumed. What is the likelihood distribution? Anybody? How do we get the likelihood distribution? Okay. See the likelihood, you see yn has two parts, Wtxn plus epsilon n, which is the noise. Once xn is fixed, this Wtxn is just a constant. There is no random variable about it. Once xn is fixed, Wtxn is just a constant. The random part is only in this noise. So the likelihood distribution, that means suppose you know W, suppose you know X, given W and X, the probability of Y, which is the likelihood, is nothing but a normal distribution whose uncertain part, the variance part, it's only the noise variance part, and the mean or the average value is this constant part X into W. Is this constant part X into W. So this is the likelihood distribution. This is a critical point. So in a linear model, the prior is specified by the likelihood, unlike previous models that we studied. The likelihood is not explicitly specified. Likelihood is specified in terms of two things. Likelihood is specified by this linearity, y equal to WTXN plus sigma n, this model formula, plus the noise model, which is the normal distribution, that is not sigma, epsilon n follows normal distribution. So these two together gives the likelihood model. So the likelihood model is a Gaussian with mean XW and dispersion. The sigma n is the sigma noise sigma, that's all. All right, so once you are given this prior, I can easily multiply these two. You know, product of two Gaussian is a Gaussian. So I can multiply these two using Bayes rule and get the posterior. What we are actually interested here is, really we are not interested in the posterior. We are actually interested in this predictive distribution. That means y given x. And how do I get y given x from the from this likelihood and the prior? Actually, you need not go into the, you need not compute PW given x. The posterior you need not calculate. Sorry. So you can directly compute the predictive distribution by this likelihood times prior and averaging it out or integrating it over all possible W. So the physical interpretation is like this. Okay, the physical interpretation is like this. You can have this W, you can have this W, you can have this W with some probability, you can this W. This W is very less, given this data, these W's are somewhat likely, this W is very less likely. That is the probability distribution, prior distribution says. And you have a likelihood. Likelihood is given a W, if x and x is this, what is y? So the likelihood is, given this is the W and given this is the x, y is this plus some noise, that is the likelihood, plus some sigma n, some Gaussian distribution, that is the likelihood. And what is the predictive distribution? So predictive distribution is y given x and W. So suppose this is your W and this is your x, this is your y. If W changes, suppose this is your new W and this is your x, this is your new y. Suppose W again changes, this is your new y. So you get a bunch of y. You get a bunch of predictions. What I do, and actually not a bunch of single prediction, because each W would give you a noise Gaussian around it. So this is probably that this, if we assume this to be W, this is your distribution of y. If we assume this to be W, this is your distribution of y. If we assume this to be W, this is your distribution of y given XW. So what I do a averaging. I add up all these distributions. Addition of Gaussian is a Gaussian. I add up all these distributions, not just simply add up, I weighted add up by the probability of each of these W's. Probability of each of these W's according to the prior. I take a weighted. So moment we add up, I get a final Y distribution, which is the sum of W1, W2, W3 multiplied by probability of W1, probability of W2, probability of W3. So that's what I have done. Probability y given xw, assuming a w and x, multiplied by corresponding probability of w, summed up over all possible value of w. If this is Gaussian, this is Gaussian, this is also a Gaussian. This is also a Gaussian, right? And this Gaussian, if you assume the prior on W is zero mean and unit variance, if we assume the prior to be zero mean and unit variance, y given x is also a Gaussian. Note the functional form of the Gaussian. So this is x into x transpose. X into x transpose. This is the only part where x comes. Plus a noise term. If it is noise free, then this would be just y. This is to be the predictive distribution. So if it is noise free, the distribution of y1 to yn will be zero mean. I am assuming all this mean to be zero into this covariance matrix. What is the form of covariance matrix? You see, it is kind of a kernel constructed over x1 to xn. All pairs. It is a kind of a kernel matrix computed over x1 to xn. Okay, but kernel function is not there. It is just a product, kind of a linear kernel, but it is a kernel matrix with zero mean. I have forced mean to be zero. I can always add a mean. Okay, so this is the joint marginal distribution of yn given xn. All right, so the 2 points to be noted. I have assumed a prior. The likelihood assuming a noise model is implicit given W. Instead of computing the posterior, important, instead of computing the posterior, I directly compute the predictive distribution y given x. How I compute? I average over, first I compute y given xw and then average it out over all w by weighting by pw. And since these are Gaussians, this also turns to be to a Gaussian with this mean and variance. The variance has two parts, the variance due to noise and the variance due to data, xx prime. The mean I have forced to be zero, it could have been some other mean also. All right, so I extend this to linear regression, non-linear regression. Instead of Wt times x, yn equal to Wt xn plus sigma epsilon n, I have a general function fxn. Wt xn was a linear function, I have a non-linear function f of xn plus a Gaussian noise with zero mean and sigma square variance, let's say. And instead of fxn, just I call it as fn. So fn is kind. So the model is like this. The model is y comes like this. So given xn, you have some function fx. You find out fn, that is line, but this fn is not directly yn. Fn plus some noise is my yn. So I cannot directly observe fn. There is some measurement noise, and fn gets added up to this epsilon measurement noise, and then I get yn. But I am interested in yn. Okay, so here, just like the linear case, let us first look at the likelihood model. So what is the likelihood model? Yn given fn. Yn given, so earlier, so the likelihood model comes directly from this. Yn given fn is a Gaussian with mean this fn. So what it says that yn is a Gaussian with mean at fn and variance as the noise variance. That is my yn. That is the likelihood model of yn. That is the suppose why it is called a likelihood, because this is not the distribution of yn. It is given fn is fixed, given a constant fn. So if f is known and xn is known, actually fn is fixed, fn is constant. So given a constant fn and a noise model sigma, the conditional yn on fn is a small Gaussian which is centered at fn, fxn, and with variance sigma n, the noise Gaussian, noise variance. Okay, so this is for a single yn. I can extend it to multiple a vector yn. So I can extend it to y1, y2, yn. I call this as my bold y or capital bold Y in this case. And these values of f1, f2, fn I denote by bold F. So bold F is this vector f1 to fn, bold Y is this vector y1 to yn. So I can extend this single likelihood model for a single point to this vector of points y1 to yn. So y vector given f vector is again a Gaussian whose mean is this y vector, f vector, and the variance now is a matrix. It is a identity matrix In where each of the diagonal is sigma square. I assume a symmetric noise for every point, same noise variance at each and every xn. So this would be the sigma square. All the diagonals would be sigma square. Is the likelihood. This likelihood again is an implicit likelihood coming from this yn equal to fxn plus epsilon n. Straightforward. All right. So the other thing we need now is a prior on f. Just like we had a prior on w, addition to the likelihood, we need a prior on f. This is the most critical assumption. We assume that this prior on f is a Gaussian process prior. Is a Gaussian process prior. What does this mean? This can be seen in two ways. First way is that if you take any set of points f1 to fn, this vector bold F vector, it would be normally distributed. Okay, and actually we'll see that without loss of generality, we can assume it to be a Gaussian zero mean Gaussian process with some kernel function k. We can assume it to be a zero mean Gaussian process. Okay, so actually we'll see that all these derivation doesn't change if it is some other mean. Assume it to be zero mean. What it means is that if you take any f1 to fn, capital F, it will be a Gaussian. Jointly, they will be a Gaussian distribution with covariance matrix K and mean 0. This is one view. Another view is that this Gaussian process prior says is that all the f, all the different function space view, all the different f that you can have. See, just like in the linear case, we can have all possible lines. You can have all possible functions here with some probability distribution defined over there. We kind of make a basic assumption by assuming this prior is that they will be, all these functions will be with a very high probability lying inside this 0k, centered at 0 and with a variance k. Okay, there are some with some very low probability, they can be outside also, but with a high probability, they will be inside this band. So basically, we are assuming kind of boundedness of the functions. They will lie inside this. This mean value is, I have assumed to be 0. You can shift it easily. You can shift it easily. And they lie. So this is kind of a very basic boundedness or smoothness assumption. This Gaussian process prior is a very kind of general assumption about the nature of the function. Of course, I have not specified. It is 0k. K has two hyperparameters, sigma and L. So how much band is, what is the local smoothness, that will depend on the value of sigma f and L. But let's make an assumption on them. Let's make some. So always these priors are kind of very general knowledge, very basic knowledge we have about the function, about the nature of the function. They should not be over restrictive. They should not be over restrictive. They should be very general assumption. So this is a general assumption. This is bounded, and this is some kind of smoothness is there. That's all. Nothing about more specific about the function. Nothing about its nature, quadratic or anything. Just boundedness and smoothness. Okay, so we assume this to be a Gaussian process. So the likelihood is kind of, this comes from this implicit model. So prior we assume to be Gaussian process. Naturally, you can expect that this is a very attractive prior, because if you take any subset f1 to fn, it becomes a Gaussian with some mean sigma. Okay, So what we would usually do is that we would usually, if we follow the steps that so you have this likelihood, we assume this Gaussian process prior, and we calculate the posterior using Bayes rule by the product of two Gaussian is a Gaussian, so this would also be a Gaussian, so PF into YF. But we are not interested in this posterior for a regression problem. We are interested in this predictive distribution. That means P of Y star, let's say initially for a single test point, Y star given a new training point, a new input X star, and the previous observations X1 to Xn, Y1 to Yn, which are these old vectors. If we drop this X and X star from this, it just becomes Y star given Y. And this Y star given Y, you can calculate from the posterior, by averaging it out over all possible DF star, all possible F star, just like the linear regression case. So assume this is F star, and then assume this to be F, not F star, F. This is your F, this point is your F star, another F star, another F star with some probability, average them out, multiplied by their probability. Okay, so the F star given Y, Y star given X comes from the just the expression, and F star. So F star given Y can be extended further, F star given F and PF given Y. Okay. All right, so this I'll explain in a little more detail. But this is what is the final predictive distribution we are interested in. Because of this GP property, each of these priors will be a Gaussian. The likelihood already a Gaussian we have seen. So this entire thing is a Gaussian. This predictive distribution is also a Gaussian. So the logical steps that we followed, we assume a prior, we have an implicit likelihood, we multiplied them, got the posterior, integrated the posterior over all possible F, obtained the predictive distribution, use that predictive distribution for prediction. The thing is that when we assume this GP property, all this posterior calculation, all this need not be done. Things are much simpler. You can directly compute the PPD, the posterior predictive distribution, from the prior and the likelihood. You can easily calculate that. Let us see how to do that. I'll explain that since. So you could have always gone through these steps, you would get the same result, but here is a shortcut for Gaussian process to calculate the posterior distribution, predictive distribution. Okay, so we'll use one property called a partitioned multivariate Gaussian. So suppose we look at a multivariate Gaussian distribution, and the variables are grouped into two groups, X and Y. I'll mention here this grouping I'll do in the following way. This X will be, here I have written a general notation, so don't confuse it with the X and Y I talked previously. X is some group of variables, Y is another group of variables. So we'll group it in such a way, so X are the observations, training points, while Y are the test points on which we want to do the prediction. This way we do the grouping. So that means so X will be the given observations, this will be X, and Y will be the points on which it is unknown, we want to do the prediction. This will be Y. Okay, and we'll look at the joint distribution of X and Y. So if we take both the training points and the test point, how do they together vary? You can intuitively see, if we know the joint distribution of X and Y, I can easily derive the conditional distribution Y given X by some marginalization. Okay, anyway, suppose I have these two parties. This actually holds for any. So suppose I have two partitions, X and Y, and if we know the joint distribution is a Gaussian with this particular structure, that means this is the set of mean, this is the mean part of the mean vector corresponding to X, this is the part of the mean vector corresponding to Y, and the variance matrix, covariance matrix is kind of block. It is a block matrix. blocks. It has 4 blocks. This is the variance of the X block. So this is the covariance of the training points. This is the covariance of the test points. This is the cross variance of the training and test, and this is also the cross variance of the training and test. I'm talking about training and test, but this X and Y could be any partition. Okay, so if such, so you can always, this is not a special structure. Any covariance matrix can be split up this way. If this is so, then the marginal distribution you can easily show from the algebraic form of the Gaussian is that X will be a normal with mean only this mu X block and sigma only will be this sigma XX block. Similarly for Y. Interestingly, if we fix your value of Y to Y naught, let us look at this second case. If you fix your value of X to X naught, then Y given X equal to X naught is a normal distribution. With, interestingly, look at the mean. The mean is the mean of Y. Note that this is a conditional. The mean of Y shifted by a amount sigma yx, sigma inverse xx. So it is like this. So see, I have a x equal to x naught. So what you do, subtract mu x from x naught, you get a vector. Kind of normalize this vector by sigma yx by sigma xx. Sigma yx by sigma xx. This is to normalize this x naught minus mu. Add this part to mu y. You get your y given x. So the mean gets shifted by an amount which depends on x naught, at where you are computing the conditional, at which value of x naught. So the predictive distribution y given x will depend on the training samples x naught. Similarly, the variance is sigma yy, but since we have more information now, we have some knowledge about x naught, the uncertainty will reduce, variance will reduce. Variance will reduce by this much, x yx into sigma yx into sigma xy divided by sigma xx. By this much amount it will reduce. So because now I know x equal to x naught, this knowledge reduces the variance. All right. So this can easily be derived. All this just you need the algebraic expression of the Gaussian. Okay, so this information helps us directly derive the PPD, the posterior predictive distribution for a Gaussian process prior. Let us quickly go through what we have assumed. We have assumed this model, non-linear model. We have assumed a Gaussian prior on F with 0 mean and K kernel matrix. So let T be a set of capital T be a set of test points x star I to so I equal to 1 to m star. Let there be m star number of test points. We call it as T. Let us define some vectors. So this capital X is the training. So I have a number of training examples. Number of training examples. Their input I called, each of them are d-dimensional vectors. So I stack them up. So I stack, each row is a d-dimensional input vector. I have m such training points. So this is d by m x matrix. Sorry, it's called n here. The dimension is called n here. I have taken it from the book. So there it's called n. Okay. So given x, and suppose I have my model is f, I can compute the f vector, which is fx1 to fxn. And I have, for each observation, I have some noise instances, so that I call epsilon vector. And I have a y vector, which is nothing but f vector plus noise, f vector plus noise vector. F vector plus noise vector is the y. So the first part is for the training examples. The second part is for m star number of test examples for which I want to predict y star actually. So I know the x. For given x, I have to predict y. So this is the x vector. This is similarly, I can compute the f star vector. This is the noise vector, and this is my y star vector. Note that, so now f is a Gaussian prior. F is a Gaussian prior. What does F is a Gaussian prior means? If I take this whole vector f of x1, f of x2 up to f of xn, f of x star 1, f of x star 2, f of xn, this whole vector, if I take this whole vector, if I take, because f is a GP, this would be normal. This entire vector would be a normal distribution. Because why? All these are points along the function. So x1 to xn, x1 start to xn, so all the training points and all the test points, all the training points and all the test points, these are the x1 to xm, f1 to fn, if I look at the y-axis, f1 to fn, and these are the f1 star to fn star, fm here, I think, fm star, these are the test vectors. So this entire vector, by Gaussian process, take a slices of points, jointly they are Gaussian. So this is a slice of points consisting of the training points as well as the test points. They will be this entire set put together be a multivariate Gaussian of dimension m plus m star. If m star was a single test point, its dimension would be just m plus 1. This would be just a single point. Okay, so we have assumed a zero mean Gaussian process with kernel K. We have assumed a zero mean Gaussian process of kernel K. So this concatenated vector f and f star. Okay, I just do one more thing. I have skipped a step. I have said jointly this is Gaussian, and I've already shown if this is jointly Gaussian, x and y, their conditionals are also Gaussian. So I think this conditionals should not be there. This is joint. I made a mistake. So this ignore this conditional. So, or I think given x star I can do that. I'm not sure. I'll see it. So because of the GP property, this will be a zero mean Gaussian with covariance, a block covariance matrix like this, k x star. This is the covariance matrix of only the training points. Okay, so this is a kind of a constant matrix. Given a data set, given a training set, I can compute this. I take every pair of training points, I compute the k function for that, I populate this matrix. So this is a constant matrix, known constant matrix. This is the known constant. And then I have this k of x star. That is the variance of the test set x. So variance of the x part of the test points. This is k x star. That means this is kind of given x star and x, this is also constant. This is, you take every pair, you take every combination of a training point with a test point. Suppose I have a single test point, you take, this is a kind of a vector then. This is the test point and its kernel with training point 1, training point 2, training point 3, and so on. And this is a transpose of that. So this is the because of GP property. Only because of GP property, this f star is this normal distribution. This helps us in this shortcut that we are talking about. And we have the noise model. Noise model, we have already said that it is all the sigma, it is a diagonal matrix with sigma square variance. There is no cross variance in the noise. One more thing we assume that actually there is a technical thing, is x and the noise should be independent, only then I can add them up. X and the noise we assume to be independent. So y, we have already told is y is f plus epsilon. So y is given x star is f plus epsilon. This I'm not sure. I have to look up why this conditional is coming. Okay, so if we add to Gaussian, it is a Gaussian. Since epsilon has zero mean, f also has a Gaussian process with zero mean. The mean stays 0. The variance is the variance of the f part. Since they are independent, we just add the variance of the noise. The diagonal terms of the noise are 0, so the diagonal term stays the same. The off diagonal term stays the same. The diagonal terms have sigma square added to them. Okay, added to M. So now let us look at this Gaussian. So this is the joint distribution of Y. So now if we make the conditional Y star, given all the X points of the training set, given all the Y points of the Y levels of the training set, and given the X points of the test set, then Y star given all these given things are normal with mean mu star sigma star. If we apply this from this, what I am doing is that I am now getting this from this. From the joint distribution of X, I am getting the con. So same way, I can get this from this. I can get this from this by applying this formula, this complicated formula. Well, I am not doing it right now, and I am just writing down the expression. So the new mu star becomes k of x star x into k xx plus the noise, whole thing inverse into y. Okay, whole thing. So this kind of is a big matrix and y is a vector. So the mean vector is the label of the y vector multiplied by something, some matrix. And note that this matrix, see what are known to us. X, capital X is known to us, capital Y is known to, this Y vector is known to us, X star is known to us. For the X star we have to predict. Y star is unknown. I say that Y star, given all this, is a normal distribution whose expected value or mean is this much, and sigma is this much. You can kind of interpret this. What is this mean mu star? Mean mu star is all the previous Y weighted by these things. So let's look at this. So your Y star I am interested to predict. So what is the average value of Y star? So Y star actually will be given a X star, Y star will have some average value and some variation around it. Right. So let us first look at the average value. The average value, which is mu star, which we call is as mu star, is this label of all the training points, multiplied by something, multiplied by some weights. Let us look at the weights. So the weight in the numerator has a term x star x, k of x star x, x star comma x. So the points in x is the training set. The training points which are closer to x star will have a high weight. Because the kernel, you know, it decreases as the distance between x star and x changes, increases. So if I look at it this way, so this is my training points, and I have a new test point x star, and now I have to predict y star. Y star is the following. The y star is the same as the y value for the nearer points to this, because you see the nearer points will have a larger value of kernel. So these closer points, whatever their y is, they will determine mu star. This is the average value of y star. They will determine mu star. The further this x is a training point is from x star, the less is this, and it will have lesser effect. So you can think of that this y star is nothing but an interpolation of the nearby y's weighted by some amount. Nearby y's means nearby training set y's. It's like the nearest neighbor classification. Okay, so plus something is there. The entire thing is normalized by the variance of the training points, because the training points vary a lot, and the noise part, which is the sigma square I part. Okay, so this is the average value of y star. What about the spread of y star, the sigma of y star. Sigma of y star, you see, that is this quantity. What is this quantity? If we just look at x star, k of x star, so it's, the sigma of x star, the uncertainty in y star has three parts. One part is the uncertainty in x, the variance in according to the Gaussian process prior, what is the variance there? The second part is the noise. But compared to this, the whole this variance is reduced by this subtraction. It is reduced by this amount. Okay, what is this amount? This is the so if your x star has lot of points in its neighborhood, this quantity would be high. So if you have a large number of training points in the neighborhood of x star, then this quantity would be high. This variance would be, the total variance would be reduced by this much amount. But if x star is in such a place where there are no neighboring points in the training set, this amount would not be high. There will be not so much in the training set. So what is actually one way of seeing this is that our Gaussian process prior, let me see. Okay, so the same thing I have derived for this single point. You can do it. So this is the final expression. So it is like this. So what the Gaussian process prior does is that it assumes some kind of band, some kind of prior, GP prior. And moment you get an observation, this prior gets modified in the predictive distribution. How the prior get modified? The mean value gets shifted depending on neighboring training points, the mean value, and the variance gets pinched. So the new updated distribution would look like this. It gets pinched by this much amount, by this much amount. If there are a lot of training points around that x star point, test point, this would get pinched by a larger amount, uncertainty would reduce, so we will become more and more confident about our prediction, we will get more and more certain about our prediction. If there are not training points around, this uncertainty would remain. Okay, so this I have worked out for a single test point, you can do it. So the finally, I mean, that's what I was taking. The mean value is kind of this Cn is I have defined slightly differently. So which has this noise. So this is this kernel plus noise is Cn. Kernel plus noise is Cn. You can think of this mu star is kind of a support vector. So like the neighboring points you take the y value of the neighboring points. It's like the interpolation. You take the neighboring. So you want to predict stock value of today. You take stock value of yesterday, day before, weight them by a suitable amount, and take the summation, weighted summation. So this is like a kernel from, if you remember, remember support vector machine. This is the Lagrange multiplier. These are the kernel values. This can also be thought of as nearest neighbor interpretation. That means you take the nearest neighbors, and it is a weighted nearest neighbor where the weight value is this k star into Cn star, all these derivations we made before. Okay. So the picture is like this. So as I have said, initially assume very less about the prior, very broad smoothness. Then as you get more and more data, they get pinched, and this is your final prediction. And I know the given a new point, I can predict a mean value and a variation around it with the uncertainty. Right? So this is what, so finally, so even though the theory is complex, the final derivation is very simple. It's kind of a weighted nearest neighbor, or a, you can think of it as a weighted nearest neighbor, where the weight values I have derived by all this calculation. Weight values I have derived by all this calculation. So mu star is the average value, sigma star is the variation. So in the advantage of a normal regression is, normal regression gives you a single value, this gives you a single value plus an uncertainty, sigma. Okay, so you should go through these slides. Quickly, I'll go through some of the things. So I have talked. So there are some things. So whenever you use a GP, you have to choose the following. First, you have to choose a functional form of the kernel. We took a squared exponential. It can be something else. Moment you choose a functional form, you have to choose hyperparameter, which you can do by some model selection optimization technique. The nature of the Gaussian prior you can choose, and you can choose the likelihood choices. I mean, whether it is this f into f plus epsilon or something, that form you can check. So I'll quickly give some example of squared kernel function. This is a standard squared exponential kernel. This is a rational quadratic kernel. There are one additional hyperparameter. This is a periodic kernel. There is a very common popular kernel called a Mattern kernel. There are some nice properties of kernel. If K1 is a kernel, K2 is kernel, so is alpha K1 plus beta K2. Product of two kernel is a valid kernel. Integration of a kernel is a valid kernel. Derivative of a kernel is a valid kernel. One important thing is that this squared exponential kernel, its derivative is also a kernel. In fact, this function is infinitely derivable. You can take as many derivatives as you want of this. Okay, so just about the so we have chosen y to be f plus epsilon. This is good for regression. But for classification, where y is either 0 or say -1, 1, 2 class problem, binary classification, then this y equal to f plus epsilon is not very good function. So instead of y equal to f plus epsilon, we choose a logistic model. We say that y given fi is not just f plus epsilon, it is 1 by 1 plus e to the power. So we choose this logistic function. So earlier y is kind of same as f except for this noise term. So now I can say y is equal to some sigmoid on f, where this sigmoid is like this. So using the previous method, you compute f and whatever you want, but don't get y directly from f. Apply a sigmoid. Why I am applying a sigmoid? Because now y can be 0, 1. You get a binary classification, just like logistic regression. You can get a 0, 1 and then you can use it as a classifier. Okay, so basically this GP function that we get, if we just plot the f value, it looks like this. If we plot the sigma f, the sigmoidal f value, then it's more like this. So that helps. There are some scalability issues, you have to do some matrix inversion to compute mu star and sigma star. Okay, so if this matrix is pre-computed, this is order n time, where n is the number of training examples. N is the number of training examples, it's order n time. So it's very scalable if the matrix is pre-computed. But this matrix requires some inversion of the kernel matrix. Matrix inversion is O n cube and storage is O n square. So if you have to compute the kernel matrix and take its inverse, it is O n cube. But once it is pre-computed, then the regression, that is application of the just the regression, is O n. So it's very scalable. One of the good property of GP is very scalable, provided you have this CN pre-computed, this kernel matrix pre-computed. And inverse taken, but that takes time. Okay, so this is the summary of GP. I end GP today. It is enables us to learn nonlinear function while capturing the uncertainty. Uncertainty, this is an important point. This is very useful for active learning. So suppose I am doing some prediction and I find by this GP process there is a lot of uncertainty, which means that I need to get more labels here. I need to get more labels here to reduce the uncertainty, which is called active learning, where you are given the option to choose your training points. Okay, so these are some nice references. Of course, the Chris Bishop's book, Kevin Murphy book. I'll probably upload the chapters, PDF file of the chapters. This is a very nice tutorial, book rather, from MIT Press. This is also freely available online. You can search it. I'm not hosting it because legally I cannot, but you can search for it. Okay, so finally one quick assignment, the first assignment. So in your team, if you see, I have got a data set from this source, which gives the day number and the number of COVID infection from the 31st December 2019 till date, 21st September 2020. What you have to do, you have to do a prediction of the number of cases in future. All right. So so what you can do for the test case is that maybe for the last 15 days you can take as the test case, and from the previous to that you can take as the training set. You can choose here any GP prior, any kernel function, any hyperparameter you can choose, but try to choose it in such a way so that the type of, you can plot the curve and see that is taken care of. That is sort of modeled. You get a bonus if you do some hyperparameter optimization, or there is something called so GP is something called a stationary kernel. That means the kernel function doesn't change its shape over time. You can have a Wiener process, which is a non-stationary kernel, where which probably will be a little bit more suitable here, is that the kernel function changes its form as time changes, as the X value changes. Right. So you can choose the same prior for both. So you have two tasks actually: predict for India, predict for world. You can choose the same prior for both, or you can choose a different prior for both. Finally, you need to submit by October 3rd. Actually, you have to submit a program using any language: Python, Julia, C, C++, Java, anything. But it has to be a single program, and all the dependencies of the program has to be mentioned in the header. It has to be a single program. Along with the program, you'll submit a write-up, which will consist of what are the assumptions you have made, what are the prior you have chosen, and maybe some plots of the results, along with some way of showing the uncertainty. So basically, the thing is, I don't want a single prediction. I want the uncertainty in prediction also. Okay, there is uncertainty, which helps decision makers. Okay, and you have to submit individually. And of course, there should not be copies of each other. And October 3rd is the deadline. I put up the data set as well as this problem statement in Teams. I'll put up in Moodle also. If you have any queries, you can mail me. Right, but the deadline is strict. We have very less time. I think. Thank you. Any question I can answer?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, the initial